Hey guys, it's Hobie Hill, Deep Dungeon Games. Today I'm going to be talking about rewarding players for good role playing and like what you as a DM can do and what players should expect as rewards that don't always necessarily mean things in the game. So any tabletop role playing game is exactly that. It is a role playing game, guys. Like you are playing a role playing game. Now I understand that you may not be comfortable playing a role playing game, or maybe this is your first time playing a role playing game. But at the same time, you should realize that you're playing a role playing game. And, with role playing in, say, Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, or any other type of role playing game, oftentimes, people will attract towards the players that are much like them. So what you'll see is like people of like minded, like people who like battle more so than they like role playing. And the DM will be that same way. And the DM will promote what they want to see. So there are three ways of good role playing in my head, and with this series, I'm going to always try to go back to the series of three to give you just a little bit to grab onto and to not make it too hard. So the three things are a good backstory, the role playing during the story, and role playing during combat. So if you do those three things, you're good to go. So in this part of the video, we're actually just going to cover the backstory. And this is a huge portion of a lot of people do. And later on in this video portion, I will cover the backstory way more in depth. And I hope you guys will enjoy and come watch that. So the backstory, what it does, it gives DMs more to work with to include you in the story. It makes the job of the DM easier by providing a sample of your history in that one location. So instead of them having like to ask you or reference back to files or texts or whatever it is, if you give them a document that says, "Hey, here's my backstory for my character. This is what I want to expect for my character, and this is kind of where I see my character as of this level X, Y, and Z." As a player, you should give a two paragraph, maybe 3 paragraph portion to your DM, kind of covering your backstory. And this is just like, I guess that would be, to me, that would be like the very small introduction to the backstory itself. It wouldn't necessarily be the exact everything you want to know to the DM. And also, the DM should know almost everything about your character. They aren't going to necessarily use that. If they're a decent DM, they shouldn't use the stuff that the bad guys or the NPCs don't know. Like, they shouldn't be using a portion of your past unless they could find it through other means, which is very possible, which also gives the bad guys, the ability to think on their feet and think logically. There's always goes back to the who, what, where, how, and when concept. So when you're doing the backstory, I think you need to look at who you are as a character, where you came from, how you got to where you are, what are your goals and ambitions as a character, and when did your adventuring life start? So to start on this, guys, we're going to hit the who you are. And I think you need to look at that and realize what you want to play. If you want to play the gnome barbarian, then you need to work on who that barbarian gnome is. What are your ambitions with that character, and what do you want to see that character grow as? The who is the background of what they are in the future of what they've started as. And that being said, you really got to look at the basics of who that character is as an individual and as a person, and that if you can play them. Now, the where you came from is a little bit different, and it doesn't always fit the meta of whatever character you came from. I once had a player who played a dwarf that was raised by elves. Interesting dynamic and very different as far as that goes. And me as a DM, I pushed him back to his dwarven roots. Well, I wouldn't say I pushed, but I showed him the dwarven roots, and he realized that he didn't know his history as a character, and that his character would be very interested in learning the history. So I gave him that option as a character. And so where you came from can be a very interesting dynamic to your story and your backstory. It could change the entire concept of you as a character and you as a future character in the game. How you got to where you are. So we all meet in a tavern, right? That's the kind of the cliche that gets used by a lot of DMs and a lot of starting of the games, and it's a cliche for a reason, but there's nothing wrong with using it. But how did you get there? Like, what are the events leading up to you getting to this point? Like, there's a reason why you're here. There's a reason why you got here. Find that out in your own mind and in your own writings and play it. Roll with it. I mean, we're playing an RPG game. Let's do it. What are your goals and ambitions as a character? So if you're starting at level 1, your goals and ambitions of a bard may be, let's go with being the most popular musical bard in the entire countryside or region. And then as you start with that, you'll grow and you'll mature that character into something who knows what. That's what's crazy about D&D is you have an original concept of a character and it eventually blows up into this insane storyline that is really satisfying and enjoyable. And lastly, when did your adventuring life start? So at one point in time, we all, as human beings, go, I'm going to go to college to be a psychiatrist. And then 2 years into, psychiatry, you're like, I hate this. This is terrible. I want to go be an engineer. And you switch majors. At that point, that's when, I would say, as long as you stuck with it, right? Your adventuring life started. And you would take that and you would say, well, this turning point was when I decided to be this. This is when I was like, hey, I'm going to pick up my rucksack. I'm going to get my short sword and I'm going to walk out that door and I'm going to start being an adventurer. And maybe that's, you walk to the local tavern and that's where you started the mission at, right? But by adding this stuff, you add a lot to your character. You're not just adding simple concepts, you're not just adding simple things that don't matter. You're playing a character and you want to play that character for a reason. And for whatever reason that is, you need to roll with that. If you're looking to, explore your own personality and maybe lash out at the world by playing an angry barbarian that's got some issues with this, that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. Maybe you wanted to play the bard because at one time in high school you didn't get to do the rock band or the country band or whatever band that you wanted to do, and you're like, hey, that's cool. I never get to do that, but I'm gonna play through this character. I mean, the limits are endless with role-playing games. I mean, these games evolve and change over time, and as you DM or play, you're going to realize that this game is more than just rolling some dice. It's super fun, it's super integral, and you really get passionate about your characters. And I think that's the goal for anyone who's going to play and have a good backstory. So as a player giving a good backstory, you'll see rewards like your story is being fulfilled throughout the story arc, right? So that means that your DM is going to take your story and make it part of the actual story itself. This is integral to the entire situation because now the DM has so much more to work with. So the DM is making this campaign to kill the evil wizard, right? But maybe they want more. Maybe that's not enough. Maybe that's only so far they can go. The players make the game. The DM is the bones, the system that holds it all up. The players are everything else. Literally, the DM is just giving the bone structure to hold up the meat sack that is the standard RPG story. Your story will be fulfilled. More enjoyment during the game. So if you care about something and you put some work into something, you're actually going to give a crap about the character. That's not to say you need to make that character who's going to be a terrible character, but you need to really look into the character that you want to play and play that. There's nothing wrong with playing a character that maybe other players hate, as long as you're not being the person at the table that is causing that. You know what I mean? There's got to be something said to do, for progress sakes, right? But you're going to enjoy the game a lot more. And lastly, more contribution of your inspiration to the world. So as I've developed my world right here, all this good stuff here, my players have become integral to making that thing flush out. From everything to radish jam farmers to crazy druid warrior type folks in the Maghoy wastes and in the Philco jungle and everywhere in this region. I mean, they have really helped me flush out my world, and I know they will help you flush your world out as a DM as well. So this is the end of this portion. I will cover the role playing during the story in the next session. I'm trying to keep these videos somewhat short and sweet. That way they're not crazy long and you're not sitting there watching me drone on for a long period of time. I'll have some updated stuff later on. I hope you enjoyed the video. This is Hobie Hill with Deep Dungeon Games.